Since we're talking about its theater, I want to bring something up that I saw late last night and I sent to Silva because I thought it was a fascinating discussion. I guess recently Braun Breaker did a promo backstage that was posted on social by WWE, and he was using quote unquote insider terminology. And this created a bit of a debate, and I saw some different tweets about it where, and I forget exactly who, maybe Silva has the tweet. Humble Wrestling says, Braun, my guy, can we ease up on the use of insider terms? And I actually saw, and I forget exactly who it was, but someone made a whole list. Oh, here you go. Backup Hangman says he gets a pass because he's cool. My philosophy is I'm okay with wrestling lingo that doesn't actively allude to the fact that wrestling is a work. And then he went on to actually list like the no-nos: heel, face, work, shoot, mid-carder, jobber, blading, spot, botch, bump, gig, good hand, green, heater, high spot, kayfabe, near fall, payoff, storyline, plant, sandbag, sell, or work rate. But then he also lists the okay stuff. He considers The Office, Get Over, This Business, Card, Chain Wrestling, Heat, Pop, Cheap Pop, Curtain Jerker, Draw, Faction. You get the idea. But he had a whole sort of list of all the things that were okay and no. And you've seen it all. I mean, when you first started, of course, heels and baby faces were never seen in the same dressing room, much less in the same car or in the same bar or restaurant. Kayfabe was a totally different thing. We're trying to defend wrestling at school. If little kids are saying, "Oh, what your daddy does is fake," well, them's fighting words. Nobody really does that anymore, but we still want to get lost in the story. And that became a topic of discussion even after Elimination Chamber, when we saw The Rock come out and do a press conference where he's sort of breaking the fourth wall. Where is the happy medium, at least in your mind, in 2025 with this, Jeff?
Oh God, Conrad, we've said this. It's so subjective. Can you tell me what Braun said? And not that it actually matters, because I've got to answer that.
No, no,
Okay.
I can't.
Yeah, that's fine. So again, going back to my life experiences, but it taught me so much. And I think it's applicable today as it was 37 years ago when I got into the business. I'm driving the car. My father's sitting right next to me, Fargo in the back, or anyway, but in a car full of guys, old timers. And they used to, especially when I first broke in, they like to have fun with this. And we would order drive through and pull up to the window, and they'd say, "Hey, those are the wrestlers. I know you, this, yes." And, my dad liked to really carry on about it. Fargo would do it and all this. Yeah, we do all that fake stuff. And the lady working the drive through was like, "Huh? What'd you say?" "Yeah, wrestling, it's fake." And the lady would just look at her, and I don't know how many times I've seen this happen going, "Oh, no, it's not." I mean, some of that stuff, but do you remember so-and-so tonight? Now, that was real. And it goes back to that quote: those who believe, no explanation is needed. Those who don't believe, no explanation will do. And I'm not talking about the essence of this is true sport versus entertainment. If you want to be engaged, suspend disbelief, emotionally connected to a wrestling product, you're going to do that. There's nothing, I mean, you can say blade, you can say all those no words up there. If you want to get engaged, you're going to. I'm going to go back to it's the character that at the end of the day, the talent that has that emotional connection can really sell and do anything, because they have built a connection with their audience individually. That is something that I just think a lot of times is such a missed art or missed opportunity, or both. Is that at the end of the day, music business, comedy business, wrestling business, if you're in the business of performing on a stage and creating revenue, that you have to have an emotional connection with your audience for them to put their hand in their phone and hit the Apple Wallet. And for them, I don't think that will ever. I just think the fundamentals that will ever change. So I don't think there is any exact line. I think it depends on fan by fan and talent by talent. It's man, to even have these kind of conversation that these words are good and these words are bad, it is getting on your high horse quite a bit. But it's, again, it's subjective. That's that guy's opinion versus somebody else. I mean, I get it. We all have different opinions of it.
Well, something I think most of us are aligned about is Homicide.
Ah,
Homicide quietly had his last match last Thursday, and from what I hear from everyone involved, it was a fantastic celebration for him, a fantastic send off. I know Mike Johnson from PW Insider was thrilled to be there and be a part. I know how much this meant to Santana and Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston and. I mean, Homicide was right there, really in the very beginning of Ring of Honor, and was one of their top talents. And of course, we know you shared a locker room with him and saw something in him when you gave him a job with TNA, and he would be off and on there with LAX. We even saw him at Grand Slam for AEW. We say this all the time. I feel like on My World that timing is everything, and I do feel like if Homicide had come along 10 years later, man, his career and his bank account may look a whole lot differently. But we hear, according to the reports out there, that he had a medical issue and was advised to stop wrestling. So almost abruptly, his last match was Thursday. But what a trailblazer! What an innovator! I mean, he has crossed paths with a who's who of professional wrestling that you see on TV these days, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, or hell, even Saturday. But it looks like he's had his last match. As Eddie Kingston said, we're both Terry Funk fans, so I know this isn't the real retirement, but happy retirement anyway. What did you think of Eddie Kingston and his remarks about Homicide? And what can you tell us about Homicide and your time with him?
well, last Wednesday, in Omaha, Jeff Jones came up to me and said, "Hey, it just kind of crossed my mind. You've got a history with Homicide," and I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And I said, "I read that. It's I'd love to know more about last match that because of kind of his place in the and I'll say not just Ring of Honor, but kind of the Northeast independent scene, if you will. And yes, Ring of Honors, but my relationship with him, and I told Jeff, and he said, "Oh, just say that on camera because we're going to send him a video for his last match." Conrad, when I tell you in a lot of ways the glue of LAX, and yes, Conan was the leader, but there were multiple instances that Conan high strung and he passionate and believed what he believed in most of the time, right, and controversial. But man, Homicide was that glue that we're going to go to the ring and deliver. And he had a couple of different partners, but I can't say enough good things about the human being Homicide is, because in his core of who he was really shone through in the type of businessman he was in this business. So yeah, man, I hope his health, I hope he's good. He's one of those guys that when you kind of look what you just said, the place in his business, timing is everything. But man, deep roots in that Northeast scene, that his body of work is way underappreciated.
Shout out to Homicide. If you're interested in seeing one of his matches, I highly recommend his feud with Steve Corino, that barbed wire match. I mean, he slapped Steve Corino so hard. Steve Corino still is hard of hearing in one of his ears to this day. I mean, it was brutality personified. And I hope that he finds success and peace and contentment post his in-ring career. He's got a brilliant mind for wrestling and has been an influence on so many guys. I could totally see him working in some other capacity in wrestling, and I hope he finds exactly what lane that is, because he deserves success, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Good dude. That's what I said. I wanted to talk on camera about the human being he was as
Yeah.
opposed to the talent.